Morning, everybody. It is August 1st, 2023, 9:20 a.m. We are officially 7 months done with the year, and we are here now in the 8th month of 2023, which is kind of insane because just a couple of months ago, we were in the early stages of the year. No one even thought of going into 2024. And now it's like, well, you can't not think about 2024 because it is only 5 months away. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. We got a lot to talk about today. Obviously, Palantir and Sofi had massive days yesterday. Sofi being up 20%, Palantir also being up like 14% yesterday. I think we're going to see some retracements potentially. We might see a little bit of a pullback, and that's just normal. That's what happens with the market. We had a lot of companies report earnings, so I want to see how the price action goes where some of those companies reported earnings. Some companies beat on EPS, some companies beat on revenue. But overall, earnings have been fine for some of those companies. And I want to see how Palantir and Sofi take off or take down after a day of pretty intense price movement. So a lot to be able to see. TJ, Harry Wild, Jared, Seth Roth, my views on this, Edmund, Lars, Jose, Fernando, Roy, Stefan, Big Ray, Martin Pilda, Suri, Benny, good morning, Amit, and everyone else from the UK. Thank you for being here. I know it's early in the UK. Eeyore was right. Everclear, cause why not? Amit got a haircut. Amit did indeed finally get a haircut. Chavero, Arquiez, DRK, JRC, Johnny Mac, thank you all for being here. All right, so top line news, I think this is pretty much obvious. Everyone knows it's coming, but we got to be able to discuss it, is what's going on with the price action in the context of Palantir and Sofi. Palantir is down 1% in the pre-markets at $19.64. It's kind of crazy that we hit $20 yesterday. I did an entire live stream kind of talking about my thoughts and discussing. I made a YouTube community post about it thinking it's been a long time since I've seen $20 on the screen. And to be honest, I do believe it will be a little bit more short-lived than not because at $20, it's stretching it a little bit given where the growth is right now. However, the market can be a little crazy, and we may see a little bit more movement to the upside if people want to come in. The retracement we're seeing in the pre-market is totally natural to me. It makes sense. $20 is a very big psychological barrier, so it makes sense why we're not seeing a ton of movement there. SoFi also at $11.15, down 2.71% from being $11.45. The cool thing about what's going on is that even if Palantir consolidates at $18 or $19, even if SoFi consolidates at $10.80 or $11.10, that is significantly better than where we were even 2 weeks ago. And I think that is one of the key things about price action and price movement. At least one of the things I'm learning is that if you can get consolidation in a price that is fundamentally above where the price was even a month ago, then you have locked in gains on paper, but you've kind of locked in a new momentum of gains. And now the next step is, all right, can Palantir clear 20, not can Palantir clear 16? And we ultimately don't want to see a correction. I mean, that would kind of suck. If you want to buy the dip, that's fine. But if it can consolidate, that's really all that matters. And so on the green days, you can't have too much euphoria seeing the green because it's awesome because the red is coming. But if the red and the green can balance out and you can still ink ahead a little bit from where you were before, you have progressed in the journey of owning a stock, and hopefully the price action can result even more over the coming years. Enphase is down at $150 right now. This recovered from $140 over the past week, so it's still not a bad recovery, but it is down at $150. It could probably fall to $130 if we see some type of correction, so we'll see what goes on with Enphase. Robinhood at $12.74, broke 13 yesterday. S&P 500 at $456 in the pre-market. It hit $457.84 yesterday. We have not broken $460 yet. That is going to be a massive psychological barrier for the S&P to hit $460, not to mention there's probably a wall there. So if we can hit that, that's going to be really amazing. Right now at $456, and Bitcoin at $28,868. Now, one of the really interesting things that's going on, if 20 holds, you need to change the brick wallpaper. It's not brick wallpaper; it's real. It's actually real. I don't know how much to convince you guys. One of the interesting things I saw yesterday is a lot of people are forecasting a little bit of a pullback because of I'm going to pull up the chart right here of credit tightening. Right? Student loans is a factor in there. Credit tightening is a factor in there. So there's this kind of argument going on that's like, oh, if there's going to be more credit tightening, it's going to be a little bit more difficult for the stock market to have liquidity to be able to rise since money's going to be leaving the market. And I mean, in October, I'm going to have to be at least paying $200 a month for student loans. So that's $200 a month that I cannot put into equities. Well, here's a counter argument against that from Gunjani, Wall Street Journal reporter. She says private equity is sitting on a record $2.2 trillion of dry powder, which could offset tightening credit. This is from Bank of America. And so as a result of this, this is the highest it's been since 2000, right? 2.2 trillion is the highest it's been in dry powder. What does that mean? That essentially means that there is a lot of money that has not been deployed in bonds, not been deployed in the private markets, not been deployed in venture, and it's looking for a home. And as interest rates potentially fall, or the 10-year, 2-year doesn't give you as much of a return as you were expecting, that money has to go somewhere. And so what's offsetting some of the macro dynamics around credit tightening, which is bad for the stock market in terms of just overall liquidity in equities in general, is you have a ton of money on the sidelines, and this is only private equity. There is also a ton of money that just hasn't been invested from like hedge fund managers that have been a bit more bearish on the market. Mike Wilson is one of the guys from Morgan Stanley that has kind of missed the entire rally, and he admitted he missed the entire rally because he was a little bit more bearish than now. And so this is a counter narrative for why the market actually can continue to go up over time, but it's a question to see where it goes from there. Natalie, good morning. Thank you for being here. Thomas Jensen, PayPal, yes or no? PayPal is an absolute yes, in my opinion. I think they have earnings today. It's going to be super interesting. I think they're at 76 right now in the pre-market. PayPal is at valuations that was at 2018, and they've done layoffs. They're doing $1 billion in share buyback. It's up 1% in the pre-market. And on top of that, they have grown massively since 2018. They don't deserve to be at a $75 valuation. I mean, they could grow 0% for the next couple years and still be fairly valued. That's how much growth is baked into this company, but how the price really does not reflect that. I think PayPal is bigger than a $85 billion company, just given the growth where we have. It has 426 million users using it a lot. I mean, I use PayPal every day. And so I think the narrative on PayPal is similar to Meta at 88, but I don't think it's like a 300% return. Meta, went from 88 to 330 pretty quickly. That's probably not going to happen, but hopefully PayPal can get back to like 100, 125. That's a little bit more of an intrinsic price value for PayPal. So PayPal is a yes for me. Absolutely agree. PayPal is an absolute no for me due to censorship. I think the censorship concerns are legitimate. I don't think it has enough impact on the business. So for example, the Bud Light stuff actually is having impact on the business. Which is why like their sales are tanking. But for PayPal, the censorship thing was like, it was a controversy for like 2 seconds, and like then it kind of went away. So at the end of the day, more merchants use this platform than not to accept payments, and that's what drives the majority of their growth. And so I don't think it's a headwind on the business necessarily. Amid, I have a part 2 of my Palantir internship application today. It's a 180-minute coding challenge. Wish me luck. Oh, that'd be amazing, Josh. That's yeah. Good luck, Josh. I hope you get into it. That'd be crazy. Imagine you working for Palantir. That would be absolutely insane. That would be. I talked to an employee who worked there. He went through like 6 rounds of interviews to get the job. So they take it very seriously. But once you're in, you are in, and it's a pretty rewarding job. So that's super awesome. Nasdaq at 14,346. We'll see what happens where the market opens. Upstart is up 300% for the year. It's down 2% in the pre-market, was up 5% yesterday. Upstart is one of those companies where I don't know why they're necessarily going up, but they are going up, especially if you look at their net income. But it is what it is. This is what the market has right now. Nikola is up 20% in the pre-market and was up 17% yesterday. I also don't know why Nikola is going up. Maybe there's something unique about the hydrogen cars they're trying to create or something, but if you're in Nikola, then congratulations, because that one is going up. Unity at $45.44, AMD $114.29, Meta at $317.99. I went through a little bit of the Meta earnings call. I think Zucks was just absolutely on point about where he sees the future of the platform in the context of AI and content-based discovery. Meta's going to be around for a while. I mean, they are the largest platform, advertising platform in the world outside of Google. And so I think out of all big tech, Meta is probably the cheapest at, 24 times price to earnings. I think objectively they are the cheapest, and it's where a lot of fund managers are still seeing upside in the Magnificent Seven, outside of some of the ones that have gone up to $1 trillion. All right, we've got about 15 seconds till the market opens. It's going to be a very interesting market open, given what we saw with Palantir and Sofi yesterday. I'm very interested to see if they tank, if they hold up, are there dip buyers? Kind of where does the market take them today, given their run that they had yesterday. All right, August 1st, 2023, 9:30 a.m. Thank you so much for being here. The stock market is now open. Wake your ass up. Here we go. Palantir, $19.45, down 1.7% from yesterday. It's still amazing to even be crossing and really bursting through that $19 barrier. So not bad for Palantir. Sofi at $11, falling right below $11, now at $10.96, down 4% on the open. So we saw that people have absolutely taken profits. Two things on Sofi. Truist Securities raised their price target from from $11 to $16, and Bank of America raised their price target from, I think, $9 to $11.50. So Bank of America and Truist have raised price targets. Google at 131, down 1.4%. Nvidia 463, down 1%. Nasdaq 14,262, down 82 points, about 0.57%. Affirm is down 2%. Affirm was actually up yesterday. Upstart is down. Microsoft is down. Robinhood down 12.67. Square down from $80 yesterday, down just a little bit at 1.52%, but still down. Enphase is down at 150.88. Tesla 265. Tesla is also down. Palantir is down 1948. S&P 500 456 right now. The S&P 500 is down. Roku is down after being 30% up. So we've got a red market. If you look on the left side of my screen, it is definitely a red market. Almost every stock is red. SLG, this is a real estate. Oh, it just turned red. It was a little green. That's red. And short QQQ is obviously green today because the entire market is red. So what we're seeing is profit taking at scale on the market, which makes a lot of sense since yesterday was a very, very good market for most people. So there's going to be some profit taking. And again, the goal is if Palantir can consolidate at 19, if SoFi can consolidate at 11, even if it's not 11.50, that is a step forward, or even 10.50 or 10.70, right? SoFi could barely get past $10 just a week ago. That would be a good thing for a lot of these stocks in order to continue rising. We got Affirm at $18.79, CrowdStrike 159, Palo Alto Networks 248, Airbnb at 148. It touched 150 a couple of days ago. Arc Innovation, Snowflake at 175. Arc Innovation was at $50 yesterday. Now Arc is at $49.26. One stock I really want to look at is Uber. Uber turned a profit for its first time ever on a GAAP basis yesterday, $326 million of a profit. This is a very good thing, not only for the economy, but for Uber. First of all, for the economy, it shows that business is flowing. Uber Eats is doing well. People are consuming, people are traveling, people are using these types of products, which means in general, Uber to me is one of those indicators for the economy. If Uber's not doing well, people aren't traveling, people aren't, going on vacations, they're not traveling around, they're not doing touristy things. So Uber doing well is a really good thing for the overall economy. But Uber turning GAAP profitable is also really good for the company because they've gotten pretty financially disciplined. This is a company that's been public since 2019, has never made a profit on a GAAP basis. It's now $95 billion in market capitalization, similar to where it was when it IPO'd in 2019. As a comparison, Lyft has just been losing money hand over fist. Now $12.29. They IPO'd at around $75. Now they're at $12. Same time around Uber, market cap at $4.64 billion. So really congratulations to Uber shareholders. I still think it's expensive in my opinion. $95 for Uber, $95 billion for Uber is not what I would be willing to pay. But at the end of the day, Uber is what it is and the market is given the valuation. SoFi, $10.91. Nvidia, $463. Robinhood, $12.55. And what do we have on Palantir? Palantir at 19, still holding up really well. I mean, Palantir at $19 holding up. Let's see if it stays above 19 for the rest of the day. But being at $19 when it was at 16, 7 days ago before the Dan Ives report, pretty amazing. The Dan Ives report blasted 16 to 17. Then on Friday, we blasted from 17 to 18. And then yesterday, we blasted into the $19 range. So not bad at all for Palantir. Okay, what do we got in some of the comments? Can you add membership button to your channel? I actually do. If you click join, there's a membership button, and it's like $5 a month. So I appreciate anyone joining. Nothing super extra for me. No really exclusive content. It's just to support the channel. So there is a membership button there. Such and says, energy source from aliens and UAP have a better chance to go mainstream than the H2 dream sold to us by mainstream and government. Yeah, that's it. Who's keeping up with the UFO stuff? Honestly, I've been so busy over the past couple of days, especially with the Dan Ives report coming out. I didn't even get a chance to really cover what's going on with the UFO stuff or even take a look at it for myself. So if you can give me any insight on that, that'd be very interesting. I've just been so busy, but the fact that we have declassified information that we found non-human, I guess you could call them aliens within a certain type of structure that would call a UFO is pretty insane. It is absolutely crazy that we're seeing that happen right now. Let's take a little bit of a look from Uber's CEO and talk about what they're doing. Again, I think this is one of those stocks that's very important for the health of the economy because it shows that people are actually consuming and doing a lot more.
Day at Uber headquarters where we are this morning. Uber reporting quarterly results. The ride-sharing company achieving what is a milestone, a first ever GAAP operating profit in the company's history. Earnings coming in at 18 cents a share. That was much better than the one-cent loss that the street had been expecting. Revenue, $9.23 billion during the quarter. It's a little bit below estimates. Uber generated the $1.1 billion of free cash flow during the quarter. And joining us right now is the company's CEO, Dara Khosrowshahi, the CEO of Uber. It's great to see you. And it is a milestone. I was actually thinking about this when we sat together. When you took over, by the way, I was looking, bookings were $14 billion, $33 billion right now. And when we were sitting together, EBITDA was off, negative $869 million. Free cash flow was negative $877 million. And so today is quite something for you.
It's a great day. It's the amalgamation of a ton of work of everyone on the Uber team, and obviously the drivers and couriers who are on the platform, but the performance is there, right? We've got gross bookings over $33 billion, up 18% year on year. EBITDA record $916 million, up over 50% year on year. Free cash flow of $1.1 billion, and our first profitable quarter, $394 million.
You said this was going to happen this year.
Yes.
Did you think it would happen? And I remember trying to get you to say when in the year. Did you know that you were on track at this point?
We thought that we would be on track either in Q2 or Q3. We tend to under-promise and over-deliver. And everything came together this quarter. The team executed really well, and
So again, it's a really, really big thing for Uber to be profitable right now. I can't stress how important this is. One of those companies that matters for the economy, and Uber being profitable is a really good thing. Wow, Palantir at $19.90. So Palantir, that's a massive green candle rebounding. The dip was bought on Palantir. The dip was bought, and ironically, the market sold off the company I was just showing you in terms of its CEO, which was Uber. So the market said, you know what, Uber is not that important for the economy. Palantir, a little bit more important. This is incredible price action, man. This is incredible price action. I would love to know your theories in the chat for why you think the price action is the way it is. Let it be very, very clear. $19.80 is not normal for Palantir, not given the months we've had. And so for it to be acting like this, and for it to not continue retracing, for it to not go back down to the $18 range, there are shares holding up this company when people sell it off. There are people ready to buy those shares, and that's how you make a market. When someone sells, someone has to buy. If there's more selling than buying, the stock drops. It's not as valuable. If there's a lot of buying to support all the selling, and in fact more buying than more people are selling, the stock goes up. It's just that simple. It has 12 million shares traded in volume, and it's been 8 minutes since the market opened. And it recovered pretty much all that it lost, and it's down it's up 0.08% for the day. This is just absolutely incredible price action from Palantir on a day where you wouldn't expect that type of price action to actually occur. Not bad at all in the word for Palantir. I don't know if it's institutional buying. I think institutional buying may have happened over the past couple of days, especially with the Dan Ives report. I do think some institutions might have taken that a little bit more seriously, and they're buying before earnings. But this right here, this might be a lot of retail saying, look, we want to buy the stock before earnings, and we're ready to buy it. Usually with institutions. Now, the one thing to support institutions is there was a massive print yesterday on Palantir. It was like 250,000 shares or 400,000 shares. So a couple $1 million were spent in one lot. That's usually an institution. It just can't be in a retail. Not that many people have a couple $1 million lying around that they can spend on Fidelity. So that likely is an institution, but we may be seeing some retail happening as well. Do you have PayPal calls? Yes, I have PayPal call debit spreads, $85, $125 strikes. And so I think PayPal can get to 125 by January 2025. And if that happens, then those spreads will do well. What program are you using to track stocks? It's Webull, Webull, Webull. It's a free software, and it should be pretty good. Do you still hold your investments in Hood? Yes, I have call debit spreads on Robinhood. The strikes are $15 and $20. So Robinhood, I think, could get to $20 by January 2025. And again, my bull thesis on that, I've talked about it many times, but it's a simple bull thesis. When people trade, they're going to use a brokerage that's easy. Robinhood is the easiest brokerage in the world. Robinhood will make a crap ton off payment for order flow. They have $6 billion in cash. The market cap is $11 billion. So 80% of their market cap is already in cash. Their net interest income is exploding because they have that much cash. Crypto revenues are going to go up as Bitcoin goes back up. Options trading is phenomenal in Robinhood. That's going to go up. The product is stellar. And I believe in management as well in terms of their vision for the product. They also did layoffs. So like they're 3 cents away from GAAP profitability. Like the thing of Robinhood, one of the most meme stocks in the world to be gap profitable before some of these other big names is just insane. And so they made a commitment to actually being financially disciplined. And so I think the market will reward them for that. And when the bull market comes, or even a semi-bull market, people will be trading on Robinhood. Case in point, AMC is the biggest holding on Robinhood. And, AMC, I think, had one of its big 70% days or whatever last week. And that was really good for Robinhood. So it's less of an investment, more of a trade. I am bullish on the casino that is Robinhood that will allow people to trade. And at the end of the day, I think it's a product that more people, Gen Z, millennials that get into the markets, they're going to use Robinhood. Like my sister, she would never know how to use Fidelity. She needs something like Robinhood. And I think there's millions of people like her that will use Robinhood. Sofi recovering above $11. This is great. This is amazing price action on Sofi and Palantir. Making sure they go above some of where they fall is really important. At $11, $10.99, $10.95, like staying in that range is really good, because what you don't want to see is Sofi fall back to 10.20. Palantir fell back to 18. I mean, like after a momentous day of gains, if everyone takes their profits, that means those gains literally didn't matter. Right? It was cool to get up there. It was like Palantir back in June when we hit 17 and then just went right back down to 13. It was cool, but it's over, right? To actually see some sustained momentum a little bit below where it ended the day before, so it sells off, but not selling off that aggressively, is really phenomenal. I mean, it's great price action on these stocks. So it's not bad at all. Have you ever seen the documentary on Deep Blue beating Kasparov, the ChatGPT moment of my youth and a fascinating story? Yes. Let me know in the chat if you're a chess junkie. I got introduced to chess when I was really young, but in 2019, I went back to India and my uncle got me back into chess. And my cousin actually came from India a couple of weeks ago, and I was playing chess with him like every single day, like 5 times a day. I love chess. I love Magnus Carlsen, Gary Kasparov. I know so much about the history of chess. It's like I shouldn't know anything about it because I suck at the game, but I love like the history of chess. So super, super big chess fan. Mr. Seymour Duck, thank you for the $2 super chat. Did you see Disney's parks is powered by Snowflake? I didn't. That's another reason why I don't like Disney now. No, I didn't know that, but it makes sense. I mean, Snowflake has 8,000 clients, and so I imagine a lot of people use them to store data. Snowflake's price action over the past 3 months has been pretty flat. I mean, so from 193, it was on June 15th. Now it's at 176. So why is Snowflake performing like this and Palantir is performing the opposite? Again, if we see Palantir over the past 6 months, a little bit better price action, a little bit more of a chart going up. I think it's because Snowflake not only reduced its guidance, but their stock-based compensation increased pretty dramatically to 53% of revenues last quarter. Last quarter. Palantir stock-based compensation is going down. Snowflake's is going up. So then the question becomes, is the growth matching the increased spend in stock-based compensation? But more importantly, is there a product here that's like worth paying all that SBC for? And for Snowflake, from the due diligence I've done, phenomenal product, phenomenal business. Wall Street loves it, but at 25 times price to sales. Palantir's price to sales right now is at 20. Palantir's still cheaper. Palantir's $20 billion cheaper in terms of market cap, or $17.6 billion cheaper in terms of market cap. Palantir's growing less than Snowflake, but I believe Palantir will grow more in the future because they have a product that's real. And that's where the qualitative due diligence comes in to understand both companies. I don't think Snowflake and their, acquisition of Neeva for $150 million and their partnership with NVIDIA is the next best thing in generative AI applications. I just don't believe it. And maybe they'll prove us wrong, but I think this is Palantir's market to win when it comes to AI, and that's the premium that they deserve. And they're still trading less than Snowflake, which is pretty amazing to see that in the world of Palantir. Still selling Palantir at 25 a minute. I am not selling my Palantir. I don't know if anyone said that I was, but I said this on the live stream yesterday. Look, my Palantir is pretty much locked and loaded till 2030. It's just, unless there's a personal circumstance that comes up, I really don't want to sell this company until, I've said this over the past couple of months, but I just kind of made it more conclusive to myself over the past couple of weeks that I just don't see the reason to sell unless it goes to 100 tomorrow. It's like, okay, yeah, that doesn't make sense. But over time, by 2030, if I believe this can become similar to Oracle or Salesforce, which is a $250 billion to $300 billion market cap, it's going to be a fun journey seeing it happen. If a thesis breaks during the journey dramatically, of course you sell. But if the thesis doesn't break and the company continues to execute, I don't know why I need to sell at $40 or $50 or $60 or $30 or $25. Case in point, I had a friend yesterday who called me, and he's selling covered calls on Palantir. For those that don't know what a covered call is, it's basically getting premium on putting up your shares as collateral. And if the stock goes above the price that you hit for the strike for the call, it's covered by your shares. your shares get called away, right? You lose your shares. So you get the premium, but you lose your shares. So at $16, he placed a ton of covered calls at $24, which means the price, or sorry, $20, which means the price cannot be above 20 or 20 or above by the expiration date. The expiration date is January 2024. So he thought in the next 4 months, Palantir will not be above $20, which to be honest is not that unreasonable in my opinion. Yesterday, he calls me basically scared as hell, thinking that the stock's going to be at 25.30 by 2024 January, and all of his shares are going to get called away. And so this is one of those things where it's like when you do these types of strategies on a company like Palantir, when it's in its momentum phase, especially if earnings go well, earnings might tank the bet and it goes back to 14. But if earnings go well, it's a scary position to be in because you don't want to lose the shares. And so I think I take the same logic where I don't want to sell in 2030, or sell till 2030 because I just believe in the company so much. And that's kind of how I go from there. He can just roll the calls over. Yes, he can do that as well. He's not that well versed in options. He just knows basic covered calls. So the point is he was annoyed, right? Because he was like, why is it up so much? And I'm like, because he also couldn't justify the valuation, right? He's an investment banker and he went through the value. He's like, bro, I can't justify the valuation on this. And I'm like, look, I get it. I can't either. But the market is the market. And so if the market's the market, then you can't really say anything, right? The market says, look, it's cheap. AI is amazing. Q2 earnings might not be that bad. And they're giving them the valuation. And so that's what's going on from there. All right, so that's where's SoFi doing right now. Robinhood at 1268. Markets overall red, but not as red as I would expect in general. SoFi now at $10.80. Still amazing, down 5% of the day. Obviously, all-time highs yesterday at $11.70 or 2023 highs. Being down only 5% to me is phenomenal price action. Same thing with Palantir being only down 1.37%. Pretty phenomenal price action. Netflix at $4.35 and Novix also, this company holding on massively at $20.70. This is a battery manufacturing company. TJ Rogers, Enphase guy, also taking this guy to another level in terms of Novix. People thought it should be worth like $10 right now. It is holding up magnificently at $20. Market cap of $3 billion. They did $42,000 in revenue, and it's a $3.2 billion company. So you do the math. That's a pretty big multiple to do $40K in revenue and be a $3 billion company. But the belief in this company, especially by retail, is pretty strong. And that's why we're seeing a little bit of momentum on a Novix, or not that much downside. Snapchat recovering from being at $9.99 up at $11.23. So the dip was bought a little bit on Snapchat. I actually watched the interview with Evan Spiegel trying to get an understanding of if there is any bull case to Snapchat. And he said nothing that made me excited. I mean, the only thing he said was that we have 4 million Snapchat plus subscribers. And I was like, okay, like that's fine. But like, how are you going to build the business? And so there's no juice left in me to think of Snapchat. Spotify recovering a little bit at $149. It dropped nasty on earnings from 170 to about 137 a couple weeks ago. JP Morgan is down 157. Bank of America is down. Wells Fargo is down. DraftKings is down. DNA Ginkgo Bioworks is down. ARC-G is down. Let's look at some of the regionals. TFC is down at 32.67. So TFC is taking a dump. Zion's Bank, let's check on them. They are taking a dump, down 3%. Let's check out KeyBank, another regional. They are also taking a dump. The regionals have been down 2 days in a row, and I'm not necessarily sure why. Maybe because interest rates went up, and that's like starting to tickle into their system. But the regionals have been down for the past couple of days, and we might see if they recover soon or kind of keep heading downwards. Amit, have you thought about doing a detailed comparison between all the AI players on the stage right now? I think the AI market is too big and would love to know who might be number 2 after Palantir. This is a really good comment. Definitely would be looking to go into something like this and do some due diligence. Obviously, I think Palantir is up there behind some of the other guys like Tesla and Nvidia. Those are the real companies making just massive amounts of money on PayPal, or sorry, not on PayPal, on AI. So it'll be interesting to see what's the second one. Palantirs. I'll definitely go a little bit more deeper into that. Let's take a preview of Apple earnings. Probably a lot more private companies. Christian, that's actually a really good point. That's a great point. There's probably a lot of private companies that are doing some magnificent stuff in AI. I keep using the word magnificent now, bro, because of that stupid Magnificent 7. Like, I need to stop saying that word. It's like ingrained in my head now. And I don't want to keep saying that word, but it keeps coming out. Let's take a look on Apple. We have earnings on Apple on Thursday. They are releasing the iPhone 15 in a month. Let's get a preview on what we expect for the most valuable company in the world, Apple.
Idea that I'm going to now upgrade my iPhone. This idea that I'm going to now upgrade my iPhone 10, which has been a standard, and I've kept it, and I'm waiting for this new, only to have to redo all of my chargers. You want to talk about infuriating. So infuriating that my market guest leading off last call tonight mentioned that instead of what her expectations are for earnings. Alex, what do you think?
Well, I think, unlike your guest, most people already have a USB-C charger sitting at home. They have it plugged into their Kindle or an iPad or some other tablet device, and they're just waiting to be able to use that for the iPhone as well. I know I fall into that category. I've got a 10. The second the iPhone 15 comes out, and I think a little bit too much due to this USB-C charging opportunity, I'm going to go get a 15, and I think a lot of people are going to do the same thing as well.
Early adopter. Gene, what do you think about the new upcoming hopes for the iPhone 15? And I guess more importantly, can this drive Apple to a super cycle?
It doesn't need to be a super cycle for the stock to continue to move higher here. And just to put some context around that quickly, is that there are about 1.1 billion active iPhones. So there's about 420 million of those that I estimate are more than 3 years old. That's when you start to get into that upgrade window. So you are entering that prime upgrade window. And ultimately, they are going to sell, if they sell 250 million, so far less than those that are 3 years old or older, if they sell 250 million next year, they hit the street numbers. That's for 4% growth in fiscal 24. And so we don't need a super cycle. Is this going to be a super cycle? I don't think it's going to be a super cycle. It's going to be probably the best cycle that they've had in 3 years, because the Pro versions are going to look and feel much different than they have over the past few years. This titanium that you said is going to have a lighter feel to it. They're going to have a haptic button on it that you can program. So there's some flashy new features that can make this be a strong cycle. But again, it doesn't need to be a strong cycle. All you need to do is continue to upgrade your existing base for this business to steadily grow.
Gene, do you think that Apple is getting enough credit for its Vision Pro? Like that? Do you think investors, do you think analysts are giving enough credence to the way that could push forward technology for Apple?
Not even close. I think that for most investors, it still is this afterthought relative to Meta and the metaverse and what is spatial computing. And ultimately, I think if you'd poll the people who have tested this, there's probably a few hundred people who have gotten a demo. I include myself in that group. I think most of those would say that this is going to be more impactful than they expected before they tried it. And so that's where it really starts, is this.
I'm not buying an iPhone. Let me make that very clear. I am not buying a new iPhone. I am very happy with my iPhone 12. I bought it in 2021. So, the bull case for Apple is that they're going to continue to just be able to chug along, and they don't even have to sell a crap. Wow, Apple's at all-time highs. I did not. Wow, Apple's at 196. The bull case for Apple, as what Gene is saying, is like, look, they don't need to sell a crap ton of iPhones. They just need to be able to sell 85 million, which is what they have registered from last year. They sell 85 million, they're good to go. If there are 85 million people in the world that want an iPhone 15, Apple is going to continue chugging along. This company does $100 billion in net income profit. Like that's a bit insane. $100 billion in profit. I mean, it's just so Apple still is the most valuable company in the world, and they've consistently just shown that they can continue to keep innovating and get products out there. Now, that Vision Pro, I don't think is fully priced in yet as well, because we haven't seen the sales and revenue from that. But when that price is in, you could imagine Apple is going higher. I think Bank of America or one of the investment banks raised their price target to 240 on Apple. And that's just going to happen because Apple, no matter if it's 3 trillion, 5 trillion, 75 trillion, if Apple's here, the banks are going to love Apple. Warren Buffett, I think, 46% stake in Apple. It's one of those companies that's a blue chip. You got to kind of have to have it in your portfolio if you want allocation to big tech. So earnings will be great for Apple. Now, earnings for Amazon are going to be very interesting with Linda Khan and some of the stuff she's saying about breaking up AWS. I think it's the dumbest thing in the world, given Amazon has an intense amount of competition in the e-commerce space. They don't make a profit off e-commerce. So AWS is the only thing that makes money for them. And it's very weird to me to break that up from Amazon. By the way, Amazon's only 1.36 trillion. It's one of the smaller big tech companies. Only Meta is below that, and Tesla's below that at 800, 900 billion. So Thursday will be very interesting to see what happens with Apple and Amazon, and we'll get some updates from there. All right, we have a guest on the morning stream for today, so we got through a lot of the regular market open stuff. We have Adam, who is with me, who is going to be discussing some of the due diligence he's come up with in the context of Palantir. Adam, good morning. What's up?
Good morning. First, is my mic okay?
Your mic is perfect. I love it.
I think it was a little bit off because of the Twitter stream.
Yeah.
last
Oh, you
night.
were logged in on Twitter? Yeah, that might have been.
I
Yeah.
maybe. Yeah, how's everyone doing? You know, you can't just keep going up. A little bit red is okay, but remember, if the price of Palantir was $15 today, you guys would have been so happy 2 months ago or 3 months ago, right? Like
That's the
before we
crazy thing
had
we were
our run
talking
up.
about yesterday, which is like, even if it's at 1950, it's like, and it was at 14 a couple of weeks ago. So it's humbling, but it's also remembering like where the price was just a month ago.
Yeah, man, I'm just excited. A lot of me and my guys, we're selling a lot of covered calls, making a killing on this, and you guys should all pay attention because there's a lot of money to be made. You don't have to sell stocks. You never have to sell stocks. You never have to pay taxes legally on stocks. I'm just letting you guys know this is loopholes made by the rich. But in any case, good morning, everybody. Johnny, good morning. How you doing, my friend? Congratulations on your baby boy. First son. He's a
Oh,
father. He just
wow.
gave birth.
Johnny Mac, you got a baby boy?
Yeah, like a week ago or 10 days ago. So he's not sleeping a lot. That's okay.
He's staying up
That's
watching
okay.
finance content so he can get that kid to college. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely, AJ. We've been crushing it. Yo, what's up, Can Man? How you doing? All right. Let me share a couple of things, if you don't mind. This is so
Absolutely.
I'm going down the rabbit hole, and I'm trying to get the actual court ruling because I'm starting to dig deep into this, and I am convinced 100% that there was a conspiracy to keep Palantir out of the army, out of being the software prime. I am convinced. I am finding evidence of this. I'm not a tinfoil hat guy. You know me. And it's absolutely insane. And there was a lot of reports that was written in the newspaper about this. And I'm like, oh, shit, this is actually true what happened. So let me present something for you guys right now.
And let me give some context for what we're talking about. So Adam did some digging over the weekend, and he's not talking about currently. He's talking about back in time when Palantir was trying to get into the government, kind of what struggles they had to go through and some of the stuff he found, which actually impacts today because yesterday we got a press release that I actually didn't even get to talk about today. I'll probably do a video on it later from the DoD. I have to go deeper into it, but we got some new contract working with the DoD in some regards. So what he's showing is kind of the struggle the company went through over the past decade to be able to land the contracts that we were able to get yesterday and the resistance that was there. What does that mean for the bull case of Palantir? What that really means is because there was so much resistance, maybe the product was just that damn good. And now that there's not that much resistance, if the product that's that damn good can scale, there might be a lot of business upside from there as well.
So let's go back a little bit into time. So there's a huge word called DoD primes, right? Department of Defense prime. And the primes are essentially Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, I believe Boeing, General Dynamics or General Dynasty, some other company. There's basically five. I believe the time that they were formed was in the 70s when they needed procurement for Vietnam War. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe it was that war where they're like, listen, it's taking too long to procure things because there was like dozens of companies and one company couldn't make like the bolts of the gun, and then one person, the other one couldn't get the lube of the gun, for example. So you needed like 4 or 5 companies to make missiles and tanks and airplanes, right? And they wanted to consolidate. When they wanted to consolidate, they basically made a mafia of sorts, a consortium. So the DoD primes, they basically became super powerful, charging anything they want. That's why the DoD is spending so much more money than they need to. They'll charge like for a little gasket, $500. I'm just giving you guys an arbitrary number when it used to cost like 50 cents because they're the only ones that make it, right? Also, when they produce a warplane, a lot of times they'll say, well, we'll give you the warplane, but all the data of the warplanes is our information, proprietary technology. So you can't even work on it. You can't even fix it.
Right.
In that context, if you think about it, that's to answer yesterday when somebody said, hey, why wouldn't they buy Palantir? Somebody asked Sachin yesterday. Just remember what I'm saying. If you understand what the DoD primes are and why they don't want to mess with Palantir, because they want the data for themselves. So now comes along Palantir that can allow you to comb through your data a lot better, right? Not steal your data, but allow you to use your data better. So in 2012, there's this report that comes out, and this is an official report. It's unclassified, but this just got unclassified. This used to be classified right here on top. And this is from ATEC, which is the Army Test and Evaluation Command. This report was written in April 2012. There's a system called a DCGS DCGS. A DCGS was built in the early 90s, and it cost $3 billion to produce. And that was essentially the predecessor to Palantir. And then they wanted to upgrade this system. They wanted to upgrade the system in the middle of 2010s. It was estimated to cost $11 billion over 30 years. They spent $2.7 billion, and then Palantir sued the U.S. government. And they said, listen, there's something called FASA, which stands for the Federal Acquisition Streamlining Act, and there's something called a COTS, which stands for Commercial Off-the-Shelf Solutions. Palantir did not sue the U.S. Army or the U.S. government in order to use Palantir software. Palantir sued and said, you are writing off commercial capabilities, and there's laws in place that says if you can find comparable or better and on par pricing or better, you have to use commercial off the shelf to support the U.S. economy, to build up the U.S. economy. When they sued, they went to court in 2016. The judge ruled in Palantir's favor. They said, okay, you're 100% right. The U.S. Army wrote off all commercial businesses, and they said that they're going to make one internally. In 2012, in April, this report was written. In May of 2012, there was a brand new report that was written, and this report was lost. I'm digging deeper, and apparently some very high-ranking military officials, like general types, sent emails, and this was uncovered by the news stations, which I'll make a follow-up video because I don't want to talk without 100% knowing. And the general says, delete this report. Don't use this report. Later on, they said we weren't trying to cover up the report. There were some inconsistencies in the report, and that's all we want to say about that. That's the official, word from the Army.
Right.
We're going to read this report right now, and you're going to see how absolutely favorable it is to Palantir. Instead of this report, the report that came out a month later was not favorable to Palantir, and the way it was structured was very much against Palantir. This is a neutral report where they took 100 servicemen and women and they asked them questions. I highlighted everything to make it easy. When we're going to read this, remember, this report is over a decade old. And when we're going to read the criticisms, tell me if you don't recognize what Palantir built internally, not through partnerships like Databricks and Datadog and C3AI and Snowflake, but internally they built this to be a complete, one point of truth, as they say all the time. So now you guys have a little bit of a backstory of how Palantir came in to work with the Army. That's why Dr. Alec Karp always says, he says, everybody hates me, but they still have to work with me. Everybody hates Palantir, right? This is where it's coming from. And this is when Palantir landed their main contract. I believe it was like an $863 million contract or $868, right? Just under $900 million they had a contract. This is where it came from. And the rest is history. This is how they built their rapport. This is how they got in to work with the Army. That's what Karp talks about. That you need to have people vouch for you. You need to have people that big you up. You need to have sponsors. The sponsor for them, they were working in Afghanistan and they were looking for IEDs, which is improvised explosion device, right? IEDs, right? That's what it stands for. Improvised explosion devices. Yeah.
Yep.
And they were saving lives in Afghanistan. And the military generals there, like the high ranking, were like, hold on a second. We have a much better system called Palantir. Why are we not using Palantir? We've used them in the past. So then the CIA director and another three-letter agency, I want to say National Intelligence, something, not FBI, I don't think. But anyways, those two directors were vouching for Palantir. They're like, hold on a second. Palantir is not shit. Palantir is amazing. The general literally said Palantir is not up to the task. Now I want to read you this report that you guys have a little bit of a backstory of how absolutely difficult it was for Palantir to get in here. So,
all right, real quick, Benny says no admit it's improved explosive devices. So I messed up yesterday on the stream, and I said, instead of saying improvised, I said improved. Everyone came at me last night, and then I realized when I watched it over, I was like, oh yeah, I said improved. So it's improvised, not improved.
Yeah.
And the worst thing is I was correct. I was trying to introduce what it was. I was like, for those that don't know what an IED is, it's an improved explosive. And it was just like, no, that's not right.
Dude, right, I say this all the time. Like I always call United Kingdoms instead of kingdom. I get so much shit for it. and I mispronounce so many words. Like I remember I did a video and I'm like, oh, you know, the Palantir earnings is like August 2nd or 7th. I don't remember. And somebody's like, this is a proponent of Palantir. This is the guy that represents Palantir, and he doesn't even know when earnings is. Blah 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 blah. My subscribers killed him. They're like, yo, out of the whole video, that's what you got? Like, bro, the guy covers a million stocks. So it was hilarious. So yeah, I get shit all the time, but it's okay. We play it off. All right, cool. So now you have this report. Now, this is not Amit saying this. This is not Adam saying this. This is not, you know, Arnie or Tom or Palantir Vision. This is none of them. This is not even Chris saying it, right? This is the U.S. military. This is the report that now says unclassified, but for the longest time it said classified, and they hid this report, right? Army Test and Evaluation Command, Forward Operational Assessment of Palantir. This is the general right here. Commander, U.S. Army Operational Test Command. Laura Richardson, Brigadier General. She was in charge of this program. Anybody from the military is going to understand what this program is, by the way. It's a long report, 50 pages, but I highlighted the most important things. They go over the purpose and who's testing it, but right here. System description and intended capabilities. Just understand what Palantir is fighting against, okay? Palantir software is a Java-based Palantir platform for analyzing, integrating, and visualizing several types of data, including structured, unstructured, relational, temporal, and geospatial, in addition to accessing all natively connected data sources, such as, and I'm just going to abbreviate these because you know, these are all the systems that they're evaluating, okay? Right here. CIDNE, BATS, M3, SILEX, UAV, UGS, whatever. Palantir's important process allows warfighters to easily draw in any other type of data, such as unstructured message traffic, structured identity data, link charts, spreadsheets, phone data, and documents. Guys, remember, this is 2012, okay? This is when Palantir was only 4 years old. Just really remember that, all right? B, Palantir has a linked analysis tool similar to, so these are what, so one Palantir is fighting against all these tools. Just, it's absolutely insane. Similar to Access Pro, Analyst Notebook, and the Distributed Common Ground System Army, which is the DCGS, which is what we replaced. Standard Cloud, which are currently used in Theater. And Theater, I guess, is the platform that took all of this together that they needed. It's fighting all these platforms by itself, okay? Palantir versus all these platforms. It's very important to understand that because you're going to hear one of the comments that somebody says later. The Palantir platform uses advanced database technologies combined with sophisticated front-end graphical user interface and enables extraction, transformation, and linking of varied databases. Palantir uses a revisioning database, also known as version tool, to document all modifications performed on objects and entities in the database. Users of Palantir can perform dynamic modeling scenarios in which they manually create links between unrelated objects and entities that update across all databases in the repository without permanently changing any of the original data. You guys read that, right? Without changing any of the original data. Because Palantir doesn't store your data. They don't steal your data. They were doing this since the jump. This is over 10 years ago. For anybody that says Palantir is a meme company and doesn't do anything, just read this. This is an official report from the military. Then they show you a few pictures of what Palantir used to look like. You know how we like to look at Gotham and Foundry from all of the things? This is what it used to look like. Pay attention to this map because this is one of the biggest faults of Palantir back then, and then I'll add to that in just a moment. These are just figures. All right. The sample population was 57 operators and 47 intermediate supervisors. So these are essentially grunts and middle management. Exceeding the ATEC system requirements. So they talk about all the requirements and then they talk about the grades of the people that are working. Not a problem. The findings. 96 of the 100 personnel, so 96% surveyed agreed that Palantir was effective in supporting their mission. and I quote, Palantir is very effective for missions, but right now it does not replace all systems because it still doesn't have all the abilities as ArcGIS, but it is much more user-friendly. When asked if Palantir saves time when performing analytics tasks, 90 out of 100 or 90% surveyed agreed it did it well. Remember how I said that Palantir is taking on like 5 different softwares by itself? This is what the guy was talking about. However, we'll fast forward a little bit later. Remind me to go back to this. That's why it's very important to read this report in 2012 to understand where Palantir is today and where Palantir is moving forward. This is exactly what Alex Karp was talking about, that Palantir is 5 years ahead. And this is a supervisor, okay? So he's the manager. He's the mid supervisor. They're going to go into strengths and weaknesses. We'll do both. Strengths. Respondents identified the following key strengths during the Palantir assessment. The software was easy to learn and was user-friendly. Some respondents had less than 1 hour of training, but they were able to perform program functions that allowed them to complete their duties quickly and effectively. Listen to what I just said. Some of them had, and when I say some, a lot of them only had a handful of hours. You'll see it in just a moment. 1 hour of training and they were able to use it. Now, I spoke to my people that were in the military, special forces, in Afghanistan and Iraq. I was literally speaking to them yesterday. Shout out to my man Vic. Shout out to my man Cheeps, a couple of other people. And they said it is a pain in the freaking ass when they do these training sessions in the Army, whether it's hardware or software, and nothing takes hours. Everything takes like weeks and months. So this is super impressive. If you guys are in the military, in the audience, you guys can confirm that, even using basics like a Humvee. Field service representatives, FSRs. You know what these are, right? Forward deployed engineers.
Yep.
FSRs are forward deployed engineers. You understand where everything comes from the military to commercial? This is what I was talking about. This is what me and you were talking about. So for everybody that says that they're ineffective, field service representatives were effective. The allocation of FSRs made them readily available to all allocations and were authorized the Palantir software. The FSRs assisted with one-on-one training of personnel using Palantir, and they tailored the training to users' needs. One respondent said, and I quote, some FSRs have added mission-specific information options like FET engagement and various other options that help keep my commander informed. Out of 100 operators, 95% agreed that the FSRs were adequate and responsive in providing the support they needed to complete their mission. Guys, these are freaking tremendous numbers, guys. Tremendous numbers. This is the same people that people are complaining about, that schmuck from Bear Cave that said forward deployed engineers are useless. Bro, the U.S. military, 95% approval rating of forward deployed engineers. But this schmuck is going to say that they're useless. Palantir is a consulting company. Let's keep going. The strengths of Palantir. Easy search tools within Palantir allow warfighters to simultaneously search, I don't know what this means, CIDNE, M3, MX, BATs, etc. This capability enables analysts to rapidly execute necessary data mining and create products that are requested by units for operational and missions more efficiently. One of the complaints about the existing system that they spent $2.7 billion on top of the original $3 billion by the actual people in Afghanistan, and I quote, this system does not allow us to complete our missions effectively for specific use cases. So it was in general, maybe it was a good dream, but in practicality, it did not work. The system did not work in practicality. Let's keep going. The system allows plotting current to 89 out of 100, 89% agreed that Palantir allowed them to visualize trends based on time, location, and individuals. 93% of the intermediate supervisors surveyed agreed that Palantir increases their ability to support intelligence requirements of the maneuver commander. Guys, pretty crazy, right? Now, these are the negatives, and these are super important. I want you guys to really listen to these and tell me if this doesn't remind you of a few products that Palantir made. Ahmed, I see that you're actually getting into this.
No, this is really interesting. I do have to, Adam, I got to dip in 5 minutes because I got in the stream. So we can streamline the weaknesses and then I got to be out.
All right, all right. I'm streaming this on my channel if you're out. So
Yeah,
if you guys
that's
want to
fine.
come on over.
Yeah.
Weaknesses. Inability to import, export. Palantir lacks the capabilities to import, export into different file formats. Any user can add or change data. Any user with publishing rights can add or change data after the product is public. And I quote, Palantir is a great tool for linking, searching, and visualizing information. One issue is that any user can add, change data, sometimes adding incorrect information. Recommendation, require a product alterations to be approved by the originating publisher. This is exactly what they installed into AIP. This right here is in AIP. It was in the AIP con. It was in the demos where you can allow people certain access. You can deny people certain access for certain tasks. And then you get contacted like a ping when somebody's touching something critical. This is exactly what was put in. Now, these next two are going to be straight up about mapping. Palantir is great, efficient, easy-to-use software. The only addition I would ask for is more options on the maps. Example, changing icon, size, color, moving the map at a different angle similar to Google. And this one was the same thing. Recommendations, schedule periodic updates monthly, quarterly, or by request with the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency database. Guys, what did Palantir build to solve this? Meta constellation.
That's right.
Isn't that crazy?
John says, my son was a military intel analyst for a third SF group, and he said Palantir was a game changer, allowed him to do whole squad jobs by himself. Yeah, and I think like that's the overall point, and that's the good thing going back into this report. The reason why they sued the military and won is because the software did work. 89% of these analysts you're talking about, or the people using in the army using it, saw that it did work. And then if they still didn't get the deal, you're kind of just like, what's going on? Like, this is not how America works. And so it made sense that they ultimately got the deal after this.
It's absolutely crazy. Like, there's so much more information that I would love to go over with you, but I just want to highlight one really quick thing. So these are all the people that they tested, right? And there's a bunch of other things.
How'd you find this? You were just Googling one day? You just found this shit?
Bro, I was making so I made a video about Palantir being sued. Obviously, nobody watches my videos. So I wanted to make an updated video that obviously nobody was going to watch. And I just it's so crazy, bro. It's so crazy. And then I dug through this and I found this, and going through this, and I found even more information to pass this. And then I again, I don't want to get political, but everybody keeps, literally I'm finding news stories that literally calls it Trump's Palantir, and people are like, Trump doesn't like Palantir. He's a supporter of Russia. It's like, yo, this is so absurd. It's so absurd. But yeah, I just digging down and I found this. So, for example, so much more information. If you got to go on, man, we could do this part 2 later on.
Yeah, I think this also could be a daily Palantir episode because there's just so much to discuss. So I thought you were going to do like 5 minutes or something, but this is a lot. Yeah.
Bro, it's so okay. Well, I just want to show you one thing and you can get out of here. How much time they saved? You're gonna bug the fuck out.
I'm gonna link Adam's channel in the chat for anyone who wants to check it out. We'll be done for today.
Estimate the amount of time that Palantir has saved you when compared to previous tool methods. Guys, I'm just gonna start reading this out. Listen to what these people are saying. 1 hour per product, half the time, 12 to 24 hours, 2 times the amount versus map HT, 2 to 5 hours depending on the task, 30 minutes a day, 30 to 45 minutes per task, 35 to 50% dependent on the soldier time is saved, 5 hours a week, a considerable amount of time, a good deal, a good amount of time, about 1 or 2 hours when creating heat maps, about 2 hours a product, approximately 4 to 6 hours a day, approximately 5 hours, approximately 50%, at least 1 hour for 3 hours worth of work, 33%, at least 3 to 5 hours per day, at least 50% quicker, roughly 2 to 3 hours per project, 15 to 20 hours per week. Every day, it will save me up to 3 hours. So that's 21 hours a week, 84 hours a month, or 1,008 hours a year. Guys, that's it. We don't have to do any more. We can do another channel on this, but it's freaking insane. And then people are going to say that Palantir is not Palantir. But that's not me. What I'm saying is this is inarguable. This is not me saying it. That's not you saying it. This is the military saying this. And if anybody knows about the military, bro, especially in 12 when we still had a normal military, no offense to anybody, but you guys understand where it's not a woke military, they don't fuck around. They did the testing. This is the time of Afghanistan when we were at war, right? Guys, it's absolutely freaking insane. It's absolutely freaking insane. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And I think it, again, proves the overall bull case that we're talking about, how, you know, at this valuation, if there is a large governmental TAM to be able to be captured, you never know how crazy it could get, how big it could actually get.
look at this guy. Adam Icy. I don't want to get political, but Trump can get the F away from anything to do with Palantir. Bro, congratulations. You should be the CEO of the company. Go woke and go broke. So stupid.
You know, it's crazy because the political stuff is such a crazy conversation. That's why I think Peter Thiel said he's not going to be political anymore, because as much as he wants to, he just realized it's so unique how the politics affects the company. And we got an election year coming up, and so we're going to see kind of where it goes from there.
Bro,
and how it affects.
And it's so crazy. And it's so crazy because I try not to be a political. Obviously, I'm a Trump supporter. Obviously, I'm a diehard Republican. Obviously, I think our country is fucked with this woke bullshit. But I try not to be political and I try not to go crazy. But the second I mention Trump, boom.
It's politics. That's what you get.
And
it's politics.
And it's so crazy. Like I can literally back up documents and stuff. And if I make a statement that's backed up by something, it's insane. It's so insane. In any case, go ahead. Thank you so much for the show. Thank you so much for everybody for coming out.
Yeah, everyone check out Adam. His channel will be in the description. I'll put it in the chat as well one more time. And we'll probably do a part 2 on this and go a little bit more deeper into this, because this is a lot to discuss. Douglas gave you a super chat. Wow,
$30, bro.
Great research. Sorry, only have a couple bucks to give, but a work like this deserves a real payoff. Go buy another share for yourself. Thank you, Douglas. That's awesome.
Thank you, guys.
Great. All right, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night. Have a good one.
Bye.